Hello and welcome to part 3 of Questions for Christians, and this is sideXwalk's response. Now we're just talking about the, if you've just joined in, we're just talking about the translations of the Bible, and I gave an example out of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you can go back to part 2 to hear about it. So, around the 1970s and 1960s and the 50s and the 40s, we'll go back, they didn't translate the King James Bible. They kept it as it is, and everybody had it. Now, around the 1970s, nobody really read that book because they couldn't understand the language. And that's why I see a lot of people turn to, Eastern religions and, Buddhism and different outside faiths. I'm talking about in America. Because of really the fact that they just couldn't understand the Bible, and so they didn't translate it, and that wasn't good enough for you guys. Now they are translating it, and somehow that's not good enough anymore. And there's another prime example of where I said no matter what we do, you will not be satisfied with the proof given, because you want to. For some reason, you want to either justify your lifestyle. Now, this might not be you, talking to you, but for many people, they want to justify their sinful lifestyle. It's a lot easier just to not believe and be an atheist. I mean, really, I think it is. It is a lot easier. Another contention would be, a third one would be, you're not accountable for anything if you slip up. You lose that, and you lose a burden of guilt as well. There's no guilt, really, when it comes down to it, because we're going to die. You might feel guilty for a time, but really when it comes down to it, we're all going to die individually and collectively, and so doesn't really even matter what happens.
And to accept the Bible as a mirror into another dimension, as though it alone is the bane of existence and knows what we should do in life, is not a very logical thing to say. Even if the Bible was 100% true, you can't live your life on the Bible alone. It's like man can't live off bread and water. Well, even the greatest Christian can't just live off the Bible. You know, the Bible doesn't teach you everything you need to know. It's not the only book you need.
Oh, really? I challenge you to give me an example of 3 things you don't think the Bible has an answer to, in what to do in a situation. I would disagree. I would say that every single life situation the Bible has an answer to. Every single one. And another thing, let me actually go back. I forgot what you said. Sorry.
Alone is the bane of existence and knows what we should do in life is not a very logical thing to say. Even if the Bible...
How is that illogical? What? How is that even illogical? That the Bible doesn't... That you use it for a guide, because that's what it's for. It's a guide to lead you to Christ. It's a guide to how to deal with certain situations. Explain to me how exactly it's illogical to do that.
The Bible was 100% true. You can't live your life on the Bible alone. It's like man can't live off bread and water.
Well, actually, Christ says, man cannot live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord. So, Yeah, you're right. We don't live by bread alone, but if we live by every word of God, we'll be all right.
Even the greatest Christian can't just live off the Bible. You know, the Bible.
I would disagree. I would say the great Christians are the ones who live off the Bible. It's the Christians who go and bomb abortion clinics that have no idea what Jesus taught. It's the Christians that go and give people detentions for speaking out of turn in class that don't understand what Jesus taught. It's the people who say God inspired me to go to war against Iraq that have no idea what Jesus Christ taught. A Christian is somebody who follows the teachings of Christ. If you don't follow it, it doesn't mean that you're a Christian, even if you say you are.
Bible doesn't teach you everything you need to know. It's not the only book you need.
Well, my challenge still stands.
So, you saying that any regular person can just adhere to or accept it, well, that's a pretty easy thing to do, isn't it? To just accept something for fact. But unfortunately, it's not that easy for me. You go on to say that people who are...
Well, here's the thing. Not everybody had access to libraries and the internet throughout history. And so, for the scholar who is really going to go in and dig in and do the research, and Lee Strobel is a prime example of that, who used his skills and abilities as a investigative journalist to apply it to the scriptures and found out that it was in fact truth. For somebody that has the time to do that and find out it's true, but not everybody has the time to do it, and that's the beauty of the Bible, is that a NASA scientist who is extremely intellectual, who can fathom some of the most intense mysteries of the universe, can also apply his reasoning and his thinking to the scriptures to see whether it's from God or not. And so, also, if there's a simpleton who has, and you know what, I don't even want to use a simple job example, because even people in those job fields can be highly intelligent, but just somebody who's simple-minded can just take it on faith, and both would be justified in doing so. You know, people don't have the time to look into things, and so that they can just take it on faith and trust in God. Although I believe that they should test it as well, because to their ability, and should question things, because as I keep saying, the Bible is not against that. Put it to the test.
Young and brought up in Christianity don't tend to be as strong a Christian as one who comes to accept it later in his life. And I agree wholeheartedly. I think that bringing a child up with a kind of automatic bias, it's like indoctrination, really. And I was not...
Here's the problem with that. Here's the problem. The parents go to church. There's Sunday school at church. You can't leave the child home alone, so they take them with them to church. And a lot of children don't like to go because it feels like another day of school. So I think this is really where Sunday school teachers need to set their Sunday school teaching to the children's questions that they have regarding it, so it's answers they want, rather than setting it to a teaching that's just following a plan, yet doesn't really answer questions. That's just how I feel. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. And not all Christians who were brought up are bad Christians. I didn't say that, and I said that they have a tendency to have been with it so long that They just think that no matter what they're doing, it's from God. Or, I don't know. I can't really think of any other examples right now. Or that, they haven't explored. Well, I don't know. Actually, I think that that could make for some really great Christians, because they've been brought up in it and they've been taught the ways that they should go. And actually, I would say that, I wasn't speaking about everybody, but a few examples of people where that they were brought up in it, and it causes problems. If somebody questions them, they say, well, you're going to burn in hell, rather than giving a good answer.
Influenced heavily by a Christian standpoint by these, quote, Christian, unquote, teachers.